It's the cost you expect to incur under efficient operating conditions. You expect to use 3 pounds of aluminum to build a product. You expect it to take a half an hour of unskilled labor to complete that product, whatever it is. So it's the cost that should be incurred under efficient conditions. It doesn't matter whether you're job costing or process costing. It can be used in either environment. But what it really does well for you is it gives you a control. You expect something to happen. If things don't happen as expected, that creates a variance that you then get to understand. Why did you vary from that standard? And the variance might be because your standard was bad. But it might be because something was being done incorrectly in the process. Standard costing can be used in your accounting systems, but doesn't have to be used in your accounting systems. So you could record your costs as you go along based upon the standards, and then as you, at the end of the period, find out what your variances are, you adjust those costs and revenues to handle those variances. So you can actually journalize based upon your standards and then adjust based upon your variances, but you don't have to. It does not have to be in your accounting systems. That's an option for each company. The basis for standard costing is something called a standard cost sheet, which essentially defines the standard costs, both dollars and time that you would have, or quantity. So an example of a standard cost sheet for the Schmidt Machinery Company says you expect to need 4 pounds of aluminum to develop XV1. The cost of aluminum is expected to be $25 per pound, so you expect it to cost you $100 in aluminum. That's your expectation. And down the line, this is a typo here. That should be 120, not 180. Because 400 plus 180 does not equal 520. So that's just a typo. Okay, so this is just standards, not budgets or anything else. It's what you expect it to take to produce 1 unit of XV1. Now, you have options on what you're going to use as the basis for your standard. And we talked about these already to some degree. You could use an ideal standard, meaning in the best case scenario, with no wastage, everything's working efficiently, what should we need? Obviously, that's going to make it very difficult to meet the standard, because if you're using that ideal standard as the basis for your budgeting, you can't do any better than that, so you're always going to find negative variances off of that, or usually going to find negative variances off of that. You could have a Kaizen or a continuing improvement standard. It'll take this much now, but over time we expect to be more efficient. Our labor costs should go down, and so you continually tighten your standards. Or you can create reasonably attainable standards. Obviously, this is the one that provides the best scenario for the workforce. Reasonably attainable within the confines of what you do. And there are 2 ways to define these standards, authoritative or participative. Which one do you think is better in the modern world? Authoritative. Authoritative. Okay. How many say authoritative? 1. Okay. Participative. Of course. Because again, if it's authoritative and the workers do not buy into it, what you have is something that will not be followed. As you establish your standards, the first thing you need to do is define the level of quality that's important. So, aluminum, you decide that for the product we're producing, it has to be 2 millimeters thick or 3 millimeters thick. That's the quality level that's required for this product. From that quality level, you can then define how much you'll need. And from the quantity and the quality, you can then figure out how much will it cost and when will you need to get it. Direct labor. Standards in direct labor are a little bit trickier. It's based on the type of work, the complexity, the skill level, whether there's going to be learning curve, the condition of equipment. There's a trade-off between machines and labor, right? You may choose purposefully to continue to have old machines, which will require more labor. Or you may say, we'll purchase brand new machinery and reduce our labor. You may trade that off for a variety of reasons. The most straightforward way to assign standards for labor is through industrial engineering, to do time study analyses. See how much time it takes to do a task correctly. So you bring in industrial engineers, management consultants, etc. You use the employees as well to do the work, to define the standard. Of course, labor contracts often define that standard for you. Contracts are very specific. In the auto industry, for instance, how much pressure you can put on employees to get the job done. So sometimes the labor contract itself defines what that standard should be. And then the personnel department, in conjunction with management, will figure out wage rates, and contracts as well will figure out wage rates and benefits. Okay, so now you have a master budget based upon some